This lecture we'll talk about cookies and sessions. First we'll talk about cookies, then we'll talk about sessions, and then we'll finish up with how we can use sessions to help us redirect to different pages and increase the functionality and usability of our site. Now before watching this lecture, hopefully you have had some instruction in class on how cookies work, especially how they work with the HTTP protocol. And with that in mind, that you've already had some instruction on what cookies are and how they work, we'll jump right into the code here. And right here I have basically a blank HTML page. I'm just going to create a span tag here so that we can style up some text. So this text will change color based off of the user's preference. Okay. So now we see the page. Nothing special here, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a cookie to store the preference of the user, the color that they want. So first of all, up here, just to get something basic working, we'll create a color variable, set it equal to red. Hopefully when we get done with this, this will have the preference of the users, the color that they want, and then we'll use that variable to decide what color this text is going to be. And so right now it should be red because that's the preference that we've set up. Now to set a cookie on the browser, we use the function called setCookie. So right here we'll go ahead and set the cookie, and we're going to, this is a name value pair, is the same thing that we have when forms get submitted. They have names and values. So the first one is the name and the second one is the value. So we'll set the cookie for blue right now. So eventually we'll get it so that the user could decide what we're going to set inside of that cookie. But this sets the cookie. Now this set cookie function has to happen before any HTML is outputted. So if we have any blank line in HTML, in the HTML code, say like up here, we've already started sending the HTML document and the set cookie won't work anymore. And hopefully you've understood that, you know, cookies get sent through the headers. Hopefully you've had that lesson in class. But once we start actually sending some HTML stuff, even a blank line, or even if we start the HTML tag up here or anything, but even as much as a single blank line, it'll make it so that we can't change the headers. So in order to change the headers, we have to have this set cookie before anything else. Now another way you might go wrong is if you require a functions page like this, and inside of the functions page you might have some blank lines. Well, you copy and paste that into here. If you have some blank lines in the HTML mode, notice we can have blank lines in PHP mode all we want, but if we have any blank lines in HTML mode or any HTML that might get printed out, we no longer can set cookies. So if we're gonna, if the case is we either have to eliminate the blank lines in the files that we include, or we should include those files after we set our cookies. So this is pretty simple. We'll set the cookie right at the top. I'll show you some errors later on in this lecture when we try to change the headers or set a cookie after we've started sending out HTML. I'm going to set the cookie to blue here, and now we're going to use a function here, if is set, And how we access cookies that are sent to us from the browser, we use the cookie associative array, and this is the name, and I'm using this isSet function right here to check to see if it's set. And if it's set, then we'll do one thing, and if it's not set, we'll just default to red. Okay, and now we'll make the color equal to the value of the cookie that's been set. And so now that the cookie's been set to blue, when we refresh this page, since we're setting the cookie to blue, we might think that the color should be blue. So let's see what happens when we refresh the page. We'll expect the text will be blue. So we refresh this, and now you notice the text is still red. And now let's see if we can debug this. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go into the preferences of my browser and view the cookies. And we can see, well, the cookie's set, how come it's red? Well, maybe we should refresh this again. Oh, and now it's blue. And we're like, huh, that was a weird bug. Well, the problem is we set the cookie to blue right here, but the cookies that the browser sent for this page are empty. So of course this cookie associative array is still empty because the browser didn't send any cookies. We're sending a cookie back when we're done with this page. We're going to send a cookie back. So we're going to send blue back to the browser for him to send to us the next time. But for this time, the browser didn't send us any cookies. So the first time we set the cookie to blue, the next time the browser didn't, so the next time when we refresh the page for the second time, then the color blue comes in and that changes our color. So there's kind of a one-page delay if we set the cookie this way. But let's continue on. I'll show you how to get rid of that, but just so that we could see it a little bit more, we'll just kind of ignore this. Right here, we'll just kind of create some links here. And this is called cookies.php. And color equals blue and blue. And we'll get a few of these tags. Maybe we'll put a line break on them so they'll be on different lines. So now I'm setting in on the query string what color they want, and so let's come up with some different colors. Green, orange, and yellow. So now we'll see that we have these links here. They're blue because they're blue by default. They're not blue because we're setting them blue. But we do have these links here, and we can click on them to different colors. I'm going to go back up here and delete the query string. Let's go back to the cookies page. And now instead of always setting the cookie, we're only going to set the cookie if they tell us to by putting it on the query string. So now we could go if is set if the get array has a color variable, and we know that we need to set a cookie to their preference. Right here, and instead of passing in blue every time, we'll just pass in the color that they are sending us. So there we go. So now we'll click on green. Of course, the text is still blue. You can say, hey, what happened? How come our text isn't green? Well, Now when we go back to the page again, the browser sends it. So that's the one page delay. So when the page says, hey, I want it to be green, I say, okay, I'll set the cookie on your browser to be green, but I'm still using the old color that you had sent me. So they sent me blue in my cookie array right here. They sent me blue, and that's the color that I'm using to mark the text, even though they're telling me that they want the color to be green. So there's a one page delay, and to see that page delay a little bit more, see, it should be blue. Now it's blue. Now it should be green. Now it's green, but it should be orange. Now it's orange, but it should be yellow. And go back here, and we should end up with it being yellow, which is really hard to read, but it's still there. So that's the one page delay, and that's because when we're drawing up this page, the cookie that the browser sent to us, the color cookie, hasn't been set yet, so we're just assuming that it either isn't set, or if it was set, is the color that they had before. So to prevent that one page delay, we'll do an else if, and then we'll set the color here to the color that they actually wanted. So now that will prevent the one page delay. So when they say they want it green, it should be green when I save it. They want it blue, it'll be blue, now it'll be green. And now there's not a page delay when we do this. Okay? And just to show you that the cookie has been set, I'll pull this up. We'll see the cookies, and now the cookie's been set to yellow, and that's what we're seeing. So one final note, for this example, I set the cookie and right here, and I'm retrieving it all in the same PHP page. Now that's just to keep this example simple. I could have one page that sets the cookie and another page that retrieves the cookie and does the preferences there. So we can set the cookie on one page, and then on the other pages in our site, we can still retrieve the cookie value. So all within our site, we can use their preference to, say their color preference, to have that be the color of their text all throughout their site. We don't have to have it be set and retrieved on the same page. We could set it on one page in our site, and then we can retrieve it on all of the other pages. So now that we've learned how to use cookies, we're going to learn about sessions. And sessions is a built-in feature of PHP that allows us to track a user through a website. So if one user comes to our home page right here, what we could do is we could set a session cookie on its browser, and then once we set that cookie, as he clicks around in the various places within our website, we could keep track of that user and know that it's that exact user. And each user that comes to your website, or with a different browser, so you could come to one person could come to your website with two different browsers and be counted as two users. But each person with a unique browser that comes to your website will set a cookie on that browser, and that cookie will identify the user as he travels through your website. And what we're going to do is, with that, we create a session, and with the session we can store information about this user, like whether he's logged in, or if he has logged in, what his privileges are, can he see certain pages, and other information like that. So sessions are accomplished through cookies, and hopefully you've learned a little bit about sessions in our in-class discussions. But in this demonstration, we'll just learn how we can use the sessions to track users throughout our site. And this is what we're going to do. On this home page right here, we're going to print out all the session information. So everything that we store inside of a session for a certain user will be printed out right here. On this About page, when the person clicks on the About page, we're going to log in a fake user. Now they won't type in a username and password. We'll get to that later on. But we'll just go ahead and set a couple of variables inside of our session. That way we can test it when they come visit the home page. We can see those variables. And then on this links page, we'll log out the user. So we'll erase those session variables, and then we could go back to the home page and see that they're gone. So the first page that we'll work on will be on this About page. And this About page will go ahead and log in a user without taking a username and password. In fact, they won't even be a real user, somebody that has registered in our site. But we'll just go ahead and set a couple of variables inside of our session. And to do that, on every page that we want to access the session information, we have to call session start. So this might be one variable that you will want to call maybe as you require the header or something like that, but I'm just going to put it on the page. And one thing that might go wrong with this session start and is if we have a blank line in front of it. This could cause errors. So and the error message will tell you which line you start printing out content. Hopefully we've discussed this a little bit in class, and we've talked about it a little bit before. This even includes, if we were to call session start down here, right here, if there are any blank lines in this header that we're including, or the functions page, or anything that we include before it, if there are any blank lines in there, blank lines as in HTML lines, we could have blank lines within the PHP. This is fine, but as soon as we have a blank HTML line, it's too late to set the cookie, to set a session cookie, because we've already sent the headers. So we have to call session start before we send any content, any HTML content or any blank lines in the HTML. Once we send a blank line or any content, it's too late to call session start. So just remember, usually I'll just do it right at the top. That we still want our header and our functions, the pages that we're requiring or including in here, unless they're down here in the footer, we really want them to not have any HTML output at all. So there's solid blocks of PHP code with no blank lines either above them or below them as we include them in. So session start starts our session, and now we'll just go ahead and start setting some variables, and we just do that by using the session array, and it's an associative array just like the cookies associative array, and we'll always have access to this variable whether we call session start or not. So it could be really confusing why your sessions aren't working if you forget to call this session start, and I'll show you a couple of demonstrations of things that could go wrong if you forget that. We'll go ahead and we'll include a user ID right here, and let's say maybe user 5 logged in, and we can also include a login. We can include any other information that we might think is helpful to keep track of the users. And again, we wouldn't normally do this until we've gotten the username and password and verified, looked up that user in the database and verified that their password matched. Then we could go ahead and log them into the session by setting these variables right here. Okay, so we'll use Jerry in this example. So whenever somebody hits the About page, they just automatically get logged in as Jerry. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit the About page. We won't really see much happening until we start editing the home page. So let's do that next. So here's the home page. Let's see the view of it right here. Here's the code that does it. again, we got to call session start right here, and I'm doing it at the beginning of my line. And we'll just have a user ID, and we'll just echo out the ID right there. And call this login. And then we'll echo So now we'll view this home page right here. Let's go ahead and put a new line here so that it's separated. And so we see that Jerry's there, and I probably will do another new line. Format this. We see that Jerry's there, but we don't have a user ID. So let's go back to the About page. And if you notice, I called it user ID, and on the home page, I'm just doing ID. So I'll put the user in here. And now we'll refresh this. And now we get 5 and Jerry. Okay, so let's see how this is working. To see how it's working, I'm going to view our cookies here. I show the cookies. If you notice, I have this PHP session ID, and it's coming from the local host, which is my website. And the contents right here, I can probably expand it out, but that you can see that right there is a long string of random characters that represents my session ID. So that's keeping track of me. I send that to my web server every time I view this page. So every time I view this page, I'm going to see 5 and Jerry right there. And so we'll refresh that, and that's how it remembers where I am. It doesn't store the number 5 or the Jerry in the cookies. These are stored completely on the web server and looked up through that session ID, so it can keep track of me. So let's see what happens when we're viewing the cookies. And I just delete this cookie off of my browser. So if I deleted this cookie off of the browser, I'm not going to send it anymore. I go to the home page, and now it doesn't know who I am because it doesn't have that session ID. Well, when we did that, by the way, it set a new session ID, and if you could tell, that's a different number. The other one started with an I, now it starts with a 2. So now we have a new session, but I haven't logged into that session yet because I haven't visited the About page. But now I'll log in, and now I'm back, and Jerry's back logged in. So now there's actually 2 sessions saying that user number 5 is logged in, and his name is Jerry. So now on the links page, let's go ahead and log a user out. So we'll pull up that page. And well, before we do that, let's just show you something that might go wrong. If we forget to call this, and I'm commenting it out so it doesn't happen, if we forget to call this, we might get really confused because the session variables just disappear. And if we call it, they're back. So my session didn't get deleted at all. It's just on that page I didn't call the session, so the session array doesn't get propagated or filled up with the session information that we've stored. On the links page, we're going to log out, and then on the About page right here, if we forgot to call session start, we would, if we forgot to call session start, then these wouldn't get set and saved. So we need to call this on the top of every page we want to access this array, whether we want to set variables or access them. And now let's go to the links page, and to log out, again we have to call session start, and let's log out, and And to remove variables out of the session, we call the unset function. You might have read about that in the textbook, but this deletes the variables out. So we'll unset the user ID, and then we'll unset the login as well. And so those delete variables out. Now we could erase them by turning them into nothing or saying the user ID is 0. That's another method, but this just erases the variables out of the session. So now that this page is saved, when I click on the links page and I go back to the home page, my session doesn't have that anymore. Now, it didn't destroy my session, I just deleted information out of the session, because if you still look at the cookies, I still have this session right there. And so now I can go to the About page and log myself in, and he's logged in again. Go to the Links page, I'm logged out, and it's gone. So normally you would do a lot more to log in. That's just to show you how these sessions work. Let's go ahead and make the login. Maybe we'll give the person a chance to tell them who they are. So we'll give an ID and a name. I'll just call it a login instead. So now when we visit the About page with no query string variables, no one's going to be logged in. We can visit this page, and then we can add on to it ID equals 3 and login equals Bob. So now that I did that, now 3 and Bob are assigned to that, and then I can log out, and then there's erased. So this is, we can use random variables to assign it. And so that's session. So now, besides just using sessions to store whether a user's been logged in or logged out, and we'll go into that much more detail in a later lecture, but there's other things that we can use sessions for. Since we're able to track a user throughout our site, we can use it for a lot of things to be able to keep information about the user, and that can help us make the site a little bit better. So if I register a new user here, and then I go back to the members page, he's there. But if you notice right here, when I registered this user, I got sent to this page right here, and it says you are registered right here, but the user really just wants to go back to the members page, or at least you think the user always would, or at least see some page of content, and just kind of seeing a page that you are registered means that the user has to click on another link to do something, some other step. Another place, when we go and we see Bob right here, if we want to delete him out, we see this user deleted, and then they have to click on another link. Maybe what we could do is delete him out and send him right back to this page. That way he doesn't have to click delete and then another link to see this page. We can be sent right to this page. Well, if he just showed up at this page, and this page is lucky, it shows a list of users, but if we show him up and throw him to another page, he might not really know that he's been deleted. So it'd also be nice to be able to display a quick message up here, telling him that the user's been deleted, and here's the rest of the users right here. That message was what I'm going to call a flash message. It's a message that we want to show up on one page and redirect them. So it might be a little confusing to follow what I'm doing at first, but hopefully in the end it will make sense onto why I'm doing it all. So this is the header of my site right here, and so we print out the site, and since we might want to display this message on any page, I'm going to include a place in this, a little place to display this message, right? Any message that we might want to display, we're going to display it up in the header right here. And now we'll go if is set here. So I'm going to use a session variable and I'm going to call it flash, and flash is something that I want displayed on one page and then deleted out of my session. So this mechanism right here will if there's a flash message to display, it'll display it and then delete the message out of the session so it doesn't continue to get displayed. So I'll break out of PHP mode right here. And in here, we'll create a div. We'll style it up. And then solid green border. And we have a little div box, and this div box only shows up if there's a message in our flash that we need to display. And so if there's a message, we'll go ahead and display it. And then delete it out of our session. Okay, so this hopefully is fairly simple to understand. If there's a message to be displayed, display it, and then erase it. So now that I've saved that, now there aren't any messages to be displayed, so we don't see those messages anywhere right here. Now in order for this to work, the session has to be started on the pages that we redirect people to. Now right now I only am starting the session on the links and the about and the home page. So let's go ahead and start it on the members page, that we're going to be redirecting to right here. So just call session start. We'll probably want to start this on all of our pages, so our register page and every page that we have, we'll just automatically call session start at the beginning of the page. So now that we've done that, the session will be started so that the header, when it prints it out right here, can access the session variables. If we don't call that, then the session will be blank no matter what, and we won't print out any messages. So let's work on the delete page first. And here's our delete page. And instead of printing out anything, if you notice, we still require the functions, and we still delete the user from the page, but now we're going to start our session right here, and we'll go ahead and set that session variable right here to user deleted. Okay, now the next step is, since we're deleting the page, we want to automatically redirect this user to a different page. And we're not going to go ahead and print up the link, we're just going to send them right to that members page. And so how we do that is with a function called header, location, and then we just set members.php. Now what this does is it modifies the HTTP headers, and it tells the browser what you're really looking for is at members.php. It kind of says the page that you want isn't this page, go to the members.php. But notice we tell the browser to go someplace else after we delete the user out. So the browser will make one request to the delete page and will delete the user out. Then it will see that it should have really loaded the members page. So the browser will automatically request the members page and display that. So there's really two calls. It loads the delete page up, and then the delete page says no, go to members.php, but before it does that, it deletes the user out and sets this flash variable. But now on the members page, when it's printing out the header, it'll see this flash variable and it will print out user deleted. And so on the members page, when it calls print headers right here, in the header, it'll see that the flash variable has been set. Instead of having a border, maybe I'll just go color, screen, take off the width. Okay, so let's see what happens. So we'll first register a user named Bob. By the way, I'm able to re-register Bob because he's been deleted out, so there's not that. Now again, we'll make this get redirected in a little bit. Go back to the members, go back to Bob. And if we delete Bob, if you notice, we get this user deleted on one page. Now it looks like I messed up. If you look over in the code, I forgot to make this an ending div tag. But when I refresh this, I forgot the ending div tag, so that made all of this green. Now when I refresh this, the message is gone too, because the flash message only shows up on the next page, only on one page. That's because I delete it out whenever I print it out. So let's go ahead and we'll fix the register page. Let me open that page. Now this register page, a thing with that function that redirects, that header function, it too, like the start session or session start and the cookie function, that also has to be called before there's any blank lines on our screen or in our file, or any blank lines in the HTML mode. So if there's blank lines in this header or the functions or the register, it might mess this up. So I'm not sure about this header page right here. I'm gonna move it down until I need it. There's my print header right here, and I'm gonna move these two lines down until I actually need them when I start printing out HTML code right here. So that'll allow me to do a redirect a little bit better. And so now if you notice, if we have a valid post, we go ahead and insert them into the database right here. And if everything worked out well, then we'll still have a valid post. So I'm going to change this around a little bit. So down here means that everything worked. The login wasn't already taken. The SQL went and worked perfectly. And now if they don't have a valid post, we'll go ahead and set those so they reappear in the form. And up here is now redirect to members page. And so we could go ahead and do the session flash equals to our registered. And we'll also add in this function right here. Set the location, the members.php. Now, if you notice, in order to be able to do this right here, I had to move my print header down below, which is okay because this is all processing up here and then the print header down here. Another thing to note is I did call session start at the beginning of this. If I didn't do that, then setting this would have been useless because the session wouldn't have been started. So now let's go ahead and try to register someone. Or we register Bob. Poor Bob gets created and deleted to test things. So now Bob's in, but if you notice, I'm right here at the members page afterwards. Now I'm not seeing that message, so let's go ahead and see if there's some reason why I can't see that message. So if we look at this, we go ahead and set the session variable, so we should be seeing you are registered. Now the user's obviously deleted out because it wasn't in the last list. We also redirect them. By the way, if you're having problems in debugging, one thing that you can do is clear out this clear out that line. Don't redirect yourself until you're sure that it's working. If it isn't working, comment out the redirect and print out some debug information. Don't just try to struggle through it. Always comment out the redirect when something isn't going. So let's go ahead and try to re-register Bob. And so now we're getting you are registered. It is printing up, and then we see this, and now I'll start echoing out the SQL query as well. And now back to this website. You see that I'm actually seeing that you are registered, and this is a hint. Even though I'm redirecting the user, or in this case I didn't redirect the user that last time, even though I technically would be redirecting the user if I uncommented this, I'm still finishing the rest of this page, which means that I'm still going to call print header to print it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and send them the page, this page right here. The browser is going to ignore it and redirect to the members. So just because we redirect somebody doesn't mean that we're done running the script. It'll run the rest of the script, and in the process it calls print header and prints out my message. And it told the browser to load the other page, but it ran the rest of the script, and the browser just ignores that page and my message and jumps to the members page. So what I really need to do is stop running any PHP code. I just need to get out. So this is one debugging tip, very important. If you're redirecting people and something's not going right, stop redirecting people. Make sure you're here on the right condition, right there. So now let's go to this members page. Bob is in there. We'll delete him out. Now it says users deleted, so that's working. Notice I click on another link, it's gone. Now we'll register Bob. Get Bob's email. Now Bob's registered, and now if you notice we see the message, you are registered. And that's because we exited our script and we didn't actually generate the rest of the page that we thought we were going to. So just to review what happened and why we have to call this exit right here. Before I wasn't calling the exit, so we told the browser to redirect right here, but this line in and of itself doesn't stop us from executing the rest of this stuff down here. So we actually generated this page right here, and in the process of generating this page, we printed the header, which printed out this session variable right here, and then erased it. So we sent that page to the browser, but we also sent it with this redirect right here, and that redirect told the browser to ignore the page, even though we generated a perfectly nice page that said you are registered right here. Even though we generated a valid HTML page, this line right here told the browser to ignore it, and told it to go to this page instead. So the browser doesn't display the page, but we still generate it. And in the process of generating it, we call this print header function. And the print header function, displays and erases this message. So when we actually load up the members page, the message isn't there anymore. So now we have this. We put in this exit, and what that does is it just quits right here. That means we don't finish executing the rest of this script. And now that we have this redirect, we could simplify this page right here and just print up the form no matter what. We don't have to worry about the valid post or anything like that. But we'll just leave it the way it is. And this exit, again, quits the page right there. So, and we can see in the header, when we print it out, we always erase it. So the page that got ignored by the browser printed the message out and erased it, so the redirect didn't print it out. Now, you might wonder why we didn't have to exit the script in the delete page. That's because we don't print anything else out after this. We automatically redirect them, so we don't need an exit on this page as well. And just to see the functionality of this again, we'll go and we'll delete Bob, and we're redirected to the users page. We see the user deleted. We see it once. When we refresh the page, it's gone. And one more time, we'll add Bob back in. And we register him. And now we click it once and we see you are registered right away. So that's, we see that message, and then of course refresh. If we refresh the page, it's going to be gone, or if we click on the next page, it's gone. So that's a message that we see for one page. Just want to make sure that message shows up on the page that we're redirected to, not the page that we were redirected from. And so that was my original error, is not exiting the script, and it showed up on the page that we're getting redirected from. The browser didn't display to us.